They've come from all over the world. The lure of one of the biggest cash games in town, too much of a temptation. They've committed themselves to 48 hours of non-stop action. The big question here at the Montesino in Vienna is just who can stay the distance. It's not an easy question to answer when it comes to the party poker big game. There's a whole host of unknowns. Take the player evictions, a ruthless process that can take you out of the action through no fault of your own. There's the sheer quality of players around this table. Some of the biggest names in poker are here. Holding on to a winning streak and knowing when to quit is a difficult call at the best of times. And with a ticking clock in the background, the pressure is immense.
Vienna is providing the perfect backdrop to the 6th edition of the Party Poker Big Game. We started off with a full table, and through many a twist and turn, 4 have gone and 4 new faces have arrived. Phil Laak, after a very impressive start, has taken a few backward steps, but is still 17K up. Alec Torelli is the man to watch with over 26K, whilst at the other end, Tony G, one of the newest recruits to the table, is already over 5K down. Trickett has been over 20 down, but a good spell has seen him pull himself back into contention. Straddle up, straddle out. That's Roberto Romanello with the 100 live. I'm thinking right now there's, of the 8 players, it looks like it's pretty well split. Half are straddling every time it's their first to speak, and the other half aren't. But that's fine. It's optional, and these pots are getting big enough.
Just wait till people get a little bit more stuck. Those things always tend to change.
It's the only way to get rich. No, I'm the biggest loser in the game. I'm getting robbed blind by the dealer. No wonder he just gets me to 25.
We're just talking a little bit about they're going to raise the maximum buy-in.
I think that would be a good idea.
I think from 20,000 to 30. That's just going to allow people to top up. It's going to make the pots bigger. And yeah, James getting out of the dirt, that's for sure.
And I expect Tony to buy in for that 30 immediately. Top up there. Dan 2 probably.
250.
Well, Laak's opened this for 150. Romanello made it 450, and now Trickett with basically the cold 4-bet from the small blind. It's like he's picked off Romanello.
Yeah, this is, it seems like he sees right through him here. Roberto's 3-betting light for, is it the first time today he's making a light 3-bet? And he's getting just cold 4-bet out of the small blind. Sam seems to just know it right now. But Roberto still decides to see a flop with the king 10 of diamonds. Not too terrible in position.
2 players.
Out of position, that would be bad, but you can see a flop there.
You gotta have heart, really, in these high-stakes cash games. You just can't let people push you around, can you?
And Roberto smacks that flop with the king high flush draw and the straight draw. However, this Trickett does make a pair of queens, and they're about even money at this point.
Once Trickett's checked that on the flop, I mean...
Right, his game plan totally changed there. It went from being a bluff pre-flop to now just trying to get to a cheap showdown with what is second pair, but it doesn't really, it only beats bluffs at this point because he's losing to all decent queens and all the aces. And I mean, Roberto is betting to call off his stack. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what Sam does on the flop here. Roberto is never going to fold.
This pot's going to get tricky.
Even if Sam has top set of aces, it wouldn't have. It'd be about even money. And now Roberto hits the best possible card in the deck.
It's kind of hidden. I would have really been excited to see what Roberto's plan was going to be if he bricked the turn. My guess is he just bet it again. But really, Trickett, when he check calls there, is representing a lot of aces, isn't he, as well?
Yeah, a hand like Ace-Jack.
Yeah.
I mean, like, but it's interesting. Ace-King even can check call there because a hand like Ace-Jack is unlikely to cold 4-bet with.
And for Roberto, I do believe he is going to be active today. He's in tournament mode right now. One thing about Roberto is he's reliant, in my mind, on form. I just think he's in a really good mood right now. Things have been going well lately. He's on top of his game. Romanello shot to prominence through various tournaments, including an EPT win. But his performance in Big Game 5 really caught the eye.
I play it every year, really enjoy it. It's different for me because I'm always known to play tournaments. But I do enjoy the odd cash game, and no matter where it be. And I've got an okay record in the big game. I lost a big pot last year where I spun 7,000 into a 100,000 pot. And I was never winning, so I was drawing dead all the way, but I made a bad call in the river. But I was very tired. It's an experience. I never used to anything like that or close to that. So, you know, everything comes into the situation where you get tired and you make bad plays, and I think that's what happened to me.
Oh, it's got to put all the chips in.
Got very tired and made a big mistake for a big pot. So hopefully I would learn from that last year and I won't be doing that again. So if I'm winning, if I do end up winning a bit, hopefully I will take that into consideration and play wisely.
Tony G tops up.
Yeah, 16,000. That probably makes it.
That will most likely get him near the 30K
Yeah, that's
mark.
just pretty much exactly like 19.3. I mean 29.3. Yeah.
Yeah, and a guy like Tony G, he likes chips or power, feel my power. He doesn't want to be short stacked in this game.
Raise 300.
Just doesn't really play in his overall game
Oh no,
plan.
Tony G doesn't ever want to be short stacked.
It'd be fun to see if Gork gets himself in trouble or not. Two big hands here, just calling Jungleman's open, and Roberto's got
Another
the
pair of
exact
hands?
same 2 10s as Torelli has on his right.
It's always fun to see how these hands turn out, if those happen to be the winning hands, and just comes down to who bets it, you know, better in that situation.
So funny, Torelli choosing to just call, whereas Roberto takes on the 3-bet.
Well, the spot is actually very different. Roberto has a much better squeeze play spot with 2 callers as opposed to the 1 caller. He's also in a better position. So Roberto's hand is actually stronger than Torelli's, even though they have exactly the same hand. Because for those of you at home, I mean, position is one of the most important things in No Limit Holdem and poker in general. So the fact that Roberto has better position makes his 2 10s better than Alec's 2 10s.
Jungleman gets rid of the ducks, and Gork's in the tank. You know, Gork only having 5K, certainly all in is an
And he goes
option.
all in.
Has he gone all in?
He has gone all in, and I expect Alec to fold and Roberto to call. The way this hand was played out. Because it puts Alec in a really tough spot if he chooses to call here, and then Roberto puts in another raise behind him. He doesn't want to have to put out 5,000 now, only to be re-raised off of it and then have to fold the rest of his stack. He's only invested 300, and he can just get away from it right here for the 300. These 2 guys have represented a lot of strength. He does that, and Roberto does snap off.
And I call.
Very unlikely, well, let's say impossible for Roberto's hand to improve to 3 10s. He's got a couple of flush and straight outs. So Gork will just try and flip it.
If Roberto does improve to 3 10s, they should be chopping off this pot because we need a new deck.
I folded 2 10s. They call them raises, but they're really not raises. I had 2 10s.
The last thing Roberto wants to hear, but
And still take that
Any
flop.
queen or ace? Still kind of a raise.
I folded ace queen.
Huh? Huh?
Turning river to come, you can feel that Gork kind of wants it.
What
I
else?
think I'd rather have ace queen. I'm not sure though. This is pretty sad.
That was Jungleman's deuce.
on,
He
help
would have
me.
made a full house.
You're at pins now. Even you would take
And
pins.
here's the river.
Right? Are you supposed to have ace queen though?
We'll get to see Gork's intentions if he misses here.
Bam.
And he has got, does he intend to rebuy?
I
How
would think so. I think he just bought in for the min for 5,000, and I'd be surprised for him to only buy in 1 bullet at 5,000. Oh, he bought in for 10 actually. I still expect him to put in another 10.
We'll see. I mean, he hasn't been getting much of the rub of the green. Does he like the game? Does he like the situation? This is This is what cash players have to think about. You know, nobody's obviously obligated to do anything they don't want to do. And he's put up his hand.
Of course I can.
He's asked for 5, and Tony G is berating him for it, and he's trying to egg him on to buy in for more.
So. I try to get in with 5.
One thing about Gork is I like the fact that he's not letting anybody tell him what to do. Welcome back to Vienna, a city bathed in neon and heading for the small hours of the morning. Torelli, the man, in pole position after overtaking Phil Laak. Sam Trickett has been fighting an up-and-down battle and is currently more than 18K down.
Jungle, you ready for 4?
Straddle 100
Go on,
and
Jungle.
straddle 200.
Go on, Jungle. Come on, one time. I'll give you 100 to do it. You do 3, I do 100. Yeah. Really? Oh, nice.
Now, nobody could turn that down. Absolutely nobody. Jungleman, big smile on his face, getting paid 100 to make the 400 straddle. And let's be clear here, Scott. There's a 25, a 50, a 100. Phil Laak put out the live 200, and Jungleman has now just put out a live straddle 400.
And now the game has officially started. You know, that's when things start to pick up, when there's the 3rd straddle out there. It's going to happen more often now. It's going to create bigger pots, but everyone is shorter effectively, meaning they have less big blinds now, because the big blind is effectively 400 instead of 50. So people can get their stacks in very easily here with all the money, all the dead money out there.
See the big smile on Tony's face.
Try and win my money back.
Look at Tony's body language right now. He's sitting up in his chair, seems very interested in this pot. He's just excited that the game is picking up. There's the double straddle. It's going to be a big pot. He just wants to get involved. And now he's been 3-bet to 3,900, and there's no way Tony's going to fold.
The question is, what is Damir going to do
with his ace-queen? Unless Damir, of course, ships it here, which is also a possibility. Or puts in a raise, rather. He's a little bit too deep here to do that. Damir sitting on about 30,000.
I fold.
He folds.
I was going to say the one thing he's never going to do is pass, but he's made an interesting read of the situation there.
Tony's never going to pass, I'll tell you that much.
45, got about 25.
And Tony has about 27.5 he started the hand with.
You got 25 in front?
He could conceivably ship it here out of position
14,
versus
18,
a great player like Sam. It
19,
wouldn't be a
20,
bad play if he thinks his hand is good here to just get it in there. It's like including his 4,000 when he calls, there'll be almost 10,000 out there, risking 27,000. It's not, or 21,000 more. It's not the worst play in the world. Just calls.
You got them pocket fours again.
Tony's got him dominated, but he's out of position.
Well, whichever way this happens, I believe there's going to be some needle at the end of the hand.
I'm sorry there wasn't an ace there, because that could have been the big pot that Tony was looking for.
And, you know, this has been quite powerful by Trickett so far. He's gotten Damir to lay down the ace-queen.
And let's see if Tony can just call here with the ace-queen high.
Strong play if he can. My feeling is that, you know, once he's just called pre-flop, he's looking more to fit or fold, isn't he? Suddenly worried that his ace-queen's no good.
And he's going to fold. Oh, it looked like he was about to fold. Now he's rethinking it.
It's a big bet. And I mean, Trickett is just on the long arm right now, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, if Tony made a play at it here, there's no way Trickett could continue based on their stack sizes. There wouldn't be any room. But it's a pretty wet board. There's draws out there. Now even ace-jack got there.
Backdoor flush.
You had some? No going. You folded, so I had something. If you went all in, I would have had nothing. That's how it goes. You would have folded? Every time.
The power of Sam Trickett. Is he one of the best Limit Hold'em players in the world?
Hands, please.
Follow this queen. Folded ace queen.
He certainly
you're in
has
the
been
wrong
over the
game.
past year.
Yeah,
He
yeah, you can't
won
be
the
making calls
Partouche
like
main
that.
event, which was a real big one in the fall, and he's been crushing it at the cash games out in Asia. He's really one of the premier players out there right now. Just to remind everybody, this game's gonna be going on for 48 hours consecutively. You have to go to bed. You can watch us when you get up in the morning.
I don't know what they're doing.
Under the heading of Viennese trivia, these players are ordering the Red Bulls now. You know that Austria was the very first country in the world where Red Bull was sold, and one of the first places in the world that it was sold was in the Viennese poker rooms in the early 90s.
I did not know that.
Yeah, Concord card room. Well, Jungleman's opened this to 300. Romanello, the 3-bet to 800. He's certainly, you know, among the most active 3-betters at the table, right, Scott? You know, he's looking to sort of increase the pots in position.
Sure, it seems that way. It seems he's implementing his, you know, tournament strategy there. Sometimes some players with certain hands would rather just kind of 3-bet or fold, which is the trend these days, as opposed to just calling. Like a marginal spot would either be a raise or a fold, and nothing in between with no gray.
1,300.
We've seen Damir play no hand and 1 pair very aggressively, also 2 pair. How is he going to play this sort of draw?
Right, he's got a up and down straight draw here, backdoor flush draw.
I think he just prefers to be aggressive all the time,
Yeah.
doesn't he? Doesn't like to call. That's not a bad thing for someone like Damir, is it?
No, I mean, everything depends on your strategy on the table and what your image is at the current time. You can't be so one-dimensional. You can't just continue to check raise and that's your only play, because check raising is usually a very polarized bet. And polarized means it's usually very weak or very strong. But he's mixing in hands that are kind of in between, which he's going to need to change it up a little bit, or else he's going to start getting called light.
Raise all in.
And this is going to be.
This is a great play by Roberto. He's gone all in now with the 6-high flush draw. It's going to work too, because, and this is only because, just like I said, Damir has been check raising a ton. Had he not been check raising this whole table, this whole time, there's no way Roberto's gonna put in all that money there with 6-4 of hearts. He thinks that.
So gutsy from Roberto. He's put his. Jeez, he's put 17K in like
Yeah,
this.
it's going to work for sure. Damir just can't call it here.
If he does get called, he's not going to like
It would be a horrible call. Even as it is, Roberto's 6-high is 50% chance of winning the flop, because he can win with a 6 or a 4 is good, not just his hearts. But it's a great play by Roberto, and like I said, Damir needs to do what's called balancing his range. He's got to mix it up a little bit. Like a lot of players there, when they check raise, like I said, it would be polarized, meaning they're going to show up with top 2 pair or a set, and he's just going to snap off Roberto. But Roberto's thinks this play is going to work often enough because of the for the frequency of Damir's check raises here.
He's certainly considering it. You can kind of get the feeling that he wants to see the next 2 cards.
Roberto made a great play here. It should just work here.
I don't think he can call either, but on this same wavelength, Scott, Damir may not be the best player at the table to rely on folding a hand, and Roberto may be thinking to himself, oh, geez.
I think this is Hollywood right here. I don't think Damir's seriously thinking about it.
Right you are. He's laid it down. Good play from Roberto Romanello, the Welsh wizard. And has he showed his hand?
Roberto
He showed his hand. Wow.
No. I don't want to. What are you doing?
Look, we'll just show the future.
I don't want to see it. Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
Just open.
No.
Just open it now. It's your show. No.
5 in the. It was a queen and a 5.
You don't want to open it?
With the turn and river.
Because you're the boss.
I'm the boss. Open it.
Well, as it turns out,
Spades, 5 of diamonds.
I miss.
Oh, I have the
Queen
nuts.
5.
You're afraid. You're scared.
yeah. And Damir would have
For the
made
viewers.
basically the nuts. That queen of spades on the turn would have
Romanello was worried about getting there.
given him a very powerful hand, the flush draw plus the straight.
I wanted him to call. I love the action.
Push it on a draw, you have to push it. You can't just raise a little bit.
You gotta play like 20G says with your heart, innit?
5,000? 5,000.
You know, it doesn't look like there's been any huge swings on this table. The fact of the matter is, in the last couple hands, we've seen some very big bets. This straddle has not become mandatory, but it's certainly become regular. 25, 50, 100, and then the 25 ante, putting in about, what is it, 375 in the pot? That's nice. That's nice.
600.
Sam sees a nice playable queen jack suited. Elects to raise it to 6.
All 600.
Phil looks like he wants to play.
He straddled the 200?
Yes. And then he made it 600.
Yeah.
Call. Hold.
What did Phil call? Or did he,
Yeah, Phil
did he
calls
hold his hand?
King 7 of clubs.
Called for 3K by 2 of us, right? So
Yeah.
might as well have the hand if you're going to do it. It's not like a bunch of nits. You know?
Yeah, I can't be too
You
creative.
want to try and have the value of your hand in there as well.
Trickett really took Laak
Call
apart.
600.
Laak had the kings, and Trickett got 3 streets of value, flopping a straight draw and hitting it on the turn.
First pair checks.
And Trickett flops pretty nicely here. Flops the flush draw with the overcards. Tony G
All check.
makes bottom pair, and they check it around.
So deceptive, Sam Trickett there, after raising pre-flop to check the flush draw, don't you think?
Very. It would work a lot of the times if they had a hand like a 6 here, or obviously a king, but they all miss the flop, so unless one of them wants to make a play, it doesn't look like he's going to get a lot of action here.
I mean,
But,
Laak's in a difficult little spot.
Well, this is, yeah, Phil Laak does it. He just made top pair kings, and he has a straight draw with the 7. I expect Phil definitely to continue. And what's going through his mind right now is that the way Sam played the hand is he doesn't have a flush. He's thinking he could have king queen or ace king. Wow, what a fold by Phil Laak. That was very impressive. The way Sam played the hand to check it on the flop, make his flush on the turn, which is very disguised, and then Phil to fold to a single bet with top pair and a straight draw it was just a great fold right there. Great fold.
Tony G did peel off the river. Says he was drawing dead.
I mean,
Lucky.
that shows the difference between Tony G and Phil Rock right there. Look how much less of a hand Tony called with.
5,500.
Trickett would have expected to get on a little bit against Laak's hand there, and was a big fold. The highs and lows of the big game typified by the fortunes of Sam Trickett. He suffered in the opening exchanges, tumbling down the profit and loss table. Eventually, he faced the rebuy and regrouped to come back strongly, but still a way to go for this veteran of the big game.
It's like my 3rd year playing. I won the first year small. I like break even. I won like 25k the first year and probably lost 25k last year, so hopefully try and get into some profit this year.
Fortunes on the up for Sam Trickett as he eases his way back up the profit and loss table, but still a long way to go in the Party Poker Big Game 6. Have a look at some of the stats. Keep your eye, of course, on the V-chip, Phil Laak, who's basically been the leader in that department since the start of this game. And, of course, the guy with the highest V-chip number when the next eviction happens will be immune. Don't forget that the next eviction is done by the viewing audience.
I feel like it was a good play, actually. I think I played it fine. Yeah. Believe it or not. Gotta have those aces all the time, dog.
And Tony's just starting to look a little more like he's in this game to stay for a while. Jacket's off, the shirt's unbuttoned.
Yeah, I'm expecting him to be in for the long haul. Trickett just limps in with the 6-7 suited. You don't see that very often from an aggressive player like him. But Tony, oh no, excuse me, he didn't limp in. It's Tony raised and Trickett called.
I actually think
Damir re-raises to 1,400, and Gork picks up a real hand. He's definitely going to shove here, and he does. He gets in his whole stack of 4,350.
Should we go play together?
We should. No.
Sam's saying, let's put our cards together. I think these guys everyone, including Damir, are pretty aware that
This is an interesting mathematical spot here because Damir knows that he does not have the best end here, but as long as he's live, it's definitely a good call. He isn't live. It's actually only slightly a bad call if he chooses to make it. I do expect him to make it for 3,000 more. The math says most of the time you do have the implied odds here to make this call. This happens to not be one of those times, but that usually you do, and it's only slightly bad here. He's gonna call, and actually it's pretty close. He's always gonna call here. He's even getting the odds with, even though he's not. You can't fold.
Yeah, of course.
He can't fold. He can't fold this.
I need a cigarette.
Want me to pay you 1,000 for your hand? I'll take. You can have 1,000.
He's a 3-to-1 favorite here, but I mean he was getting basically those odds on the call anyway. Sometimes he shows up with 2 10s.
that's giving him a few outs. And obviously, you can see how interested Marc Gork is. This is a big spot for him, and
He improves a little bit on that flop. The king changes nothing.
Can I get a 3 of clubs? 3 of clubs?
Although a 9 or a king now chops it.
Okay. Yeah, okay. 5 of diamonds. I think I have only 2 outs.
it's going to be interesting to see if Gork was going
5 of diamonds.
to rebuy had he lost, but now with double up.
Gork is stacked again. I'm not sure he's going to rebuy, and if he does, it'll be for only 5,000. He bought in short the last time, which a lot of the times when guys want to play, they're going to rebuy in, at least a full stack, if not higher, because they want to win their money back. But maybe he's got one more $5,000 bullet left in him. We'll see.
Thanks. Be careful, you run a bit away.
That's what we really.
Small blind, please.
Wine with a minimum stack and white.
Straddle 100.
Tony G does not like that. He's gonna let Marc Gork hear it. These are not the kind of guys he wants to see in his game. Short stackers, waiters, and anybody who takes money from Uncle G.
Oh yeah.
Raise 600.
Sam wakes up with a legitimate hand.
I said 52.
Ace queen
So it's on
raises to 600.
Core 600.
Phil Laak wants to play with his king 8 suited.
Could have another ace king.
No, it's just ace queen. I'm sorry.
Say 53. 40. Now you got it. You're in the hand.
Laak takes on Trickett quite often, but he doesn't.
But he hasn't made any plays yet. He's just trying to kind of make hands in position.
That does seem what it is right now. He did make a couple plays early on, but you're right.
Phil likes to call himself a what he calls an SWM, which he dubs a squeezer with moves, which means he plays tight all the time, but will sometimes do something crazy.
I'd say that's a fairly accurate description of him. This gets tricky on the turn, depending on what comes, and if Trickett decides to play powerful.
Well, this is an interesting card. Phil has top 2 now.
It's pretty much the
Sam.
best card he could hit on the turn, isn't it?
Sure, or another king, but yeah, pretty much the same. Well, he's not going to be dominated, obviously. And Sam has a live flush draw. 8 outs with 1 to go. Phil's not going anywhere. I expect him to just call here, because it would put him in a very difficult spot if he raises and then Trickett would re-raise.
These guys are both playing deep. Even having called that bet, 4,500 on the turn, Laak's got about 26K back, and Trickett's
Laak,
even deeper.
Laak can now make a raise if Sam does decide to bet, which I don't think he will do.
Check.
Now Laak can bet for value here, and he should. Maybe he can bet 8 or 9,000.
6,550.
Yeah, that's my thanks.
So many big hands, don't you?
Can you,
Fold.
Sam doesn't even think about calling.
flop the nuts?
Could have beaten a naked ace of clubs. That's about it.
Put you on the nuts.
It's just unreal nuts. I only have the nuts. Kid, if I'm putting money in, I have big hands.
It was a big call
nuts.
on the turn. Would have been interesting to see if Laak was prepared to. I don't think he was prepared to make that call, Scott, if he didn't hit the 8. Just a naked king. A bet that large.
Yeah, that was a shutdown for Trickett. Obviously, if he didn't improve on the river when he makes that big bet on the turn there.
Must be the truth.
And Laak doesn't even think about it, and just snap calls him.
All right, I guess you'll want a hand in exchange for that.
Whatever, you're a good kid. You're Jungleman, you just get it.
I'll give you a hand in exchange.
Wait.
Really?
Sugar free. Comes.
Yeah.
200. There it is.
50.
Sugar free. Jungle.
The Jungleman.
I'm gonna have to wait for this one until everyone has a shot.
We're all drinking in jungle. Don't worry, buddy.
Gork has opened this on the button.
I finished mine.
Just 250.
I get like 4 shots.
And Torelli sticking in the 3-bet. This is pretty much just sort of, I think it's a spike 3-bet.
Probably the most lightweight person here.
Just can't really stomach the fact that Gork
Be honest, did you see a card in the reflection?
not getting pressure put on him.
Okay.
He's got the button and
So I can
a pretty
call it,
good
huh?
hand for him opening the button with. I expect Gork to continue here. He doesn't want to be pushed around. Can't ask for much bigger hands in the button here.
But I had something kind of, I don't know.
Now, if he opens under the gun with King Queen and then gets 3-bet, that's a different story.
Want a mist as well?
He's in great shape, but oh, this is going to be
A nice spot, hopefully. Maybe Gork's luck is about to change.
You just like go off.
I would say you're right.
I hate not having it. I always seem to be putting these yellow ones in.
It's one of the better flops, obviously, for the King Queen, and yet Scott, there's no reason for Gork to do anything but just sort of open up the parachute, right?
He happens to have. Oh no, that's really unlucky for Marc Gork here. The only card on the turn that's gonna make him have the worst hand, and he gets there. And that now, when it's checked him, he's thinking, "There's no reason I shouldn't bet here. There's no reason for him to think that his 2 kings with the queen is no good." So he's gonna bet here for value, and I expect him to get check raised.
He's only got his bet 2,000, 5,000 back.
Yeah, it's going all in.
The trap snapped shut. And honestly, once you bet the turn, you cannot really fold for the shove, can you? You can
Definitely
check
not.
behind for pot control, but you pretty much have to call the check
with
raise,
his
don't you?
stack size, he has to go with it. With all the draws out there, I mean, he could be going with King 10 here or King 9 as well, and decide it's just good, and he's not going to fold on the river to that kind of a bet. He could have a combo draw, some sort of
Ace 10 of diamonds,
Queen 10 of diamonds, something like that.
He's going to have a think about it anyway.
Where's my glass?
And he's entitled.
Thanks a lot, thanks a lot. 10,000 euro prize.
Marc's stack size is 5,400.
They sell 100,000.
Yeah, I've actually I've been here 8-9 days, Scott. They are actually very good French fries. Are they worth 10,000 euros? Nah.
I mean,
but they're good.
Like, you know,
they're good fries.
Couple thousand euros.
They're not 10,000 euro fries.
They are good fries. Had some schnitzel while you were here too.
Can he find a fold? Really?
Find a friend?
I don't see how you can find a fold.
I don't see how you can fold here. Once he bets the turn with his stack size, he has to go. He had to decide already that he was going with it. I'm surprised he hasn't called already. But this is what I talked about before in terms of making a plan for the hand. Like you need to know if you're betting that turn whether you're gonna call off or gonna fold it. You need to know before you bet. Because like Torelli's unlikely to just check call there based on the stack sizes. Torelli's options there were to shift or to fold.
Right.
And Gork has to know that going in, so that's why he needs to be prepared to call it off here, and he does.
Against him, it's 3/8.
He does not like to see that. That hurts. And there is outs, obviously. The jack
or a queen.
Lucky guy.
We haven't seen them run it multiple times yet at this table. Asking if they want to do business. 2 times, Marc's on board. We're going to see 2 rivers here. That means we're going to run it 2 different times, and they're going to get half the pot for each of these 2 river cards.
Okay, 2 times deal too.
Running good, running good.
There's river number 1.
Twice, right?
That's
Doesn't
yours.
change anything.
That's yours.
That's yours. Next one is yours.
And here's
I hope
river
so.
number 2.
I can guarantee it. At least you have 2 pair now.
You want to guarantee that the next one is
I'm
mine?
guaranteeing it's yours.
Yeah?
There you go.
Boom, there's the guarantee.
We did it one more time.
Sorry, buddy.
Oh, man.
Take like 30,000.
Unlucky turn card for
Be a real
Gork.
man and extend
Torelli
yourself.
has
Have a
just
drink.
busted another one. And
Really,
Marc
man?
has
Not
to make
running
it
any good here, so.
Yeah.
I expect he's done for the day. Who do we have on deck here?
Nice turn call
Not
for you.
everyone found the money tree like you, Tony. They don't just
Yeah,
know
well.
where the address is, you know?
I've got my
Sure,
name
there's
written
plenty
on
of
the
players
table.
waiting in the wings.
Just
Would
in
love to
case
get into
people
this
don't.
game.
I'll tell you what. He can finish those fries if you want, but they taste like sawdust
€10,000
right now.
fries.
Yeah, they taste like sawdust. Well played. You gotta respect this. You really have to respect a man who enjoys his €10,000 fries. And honestly, if you pay €10,000 for fries, the only way to eat them is to really just put your face in the plate, I guess.
And I tell you what we're going to do for you. We're going to give you the bus fare home as soon as the buses start running, 6 o'clock in the morning. So you're all set. You just don't take the mic with you.
I don't think he is rebuying. But
finish your
Raise
fries
change in
first
the
and
middle.
take your time.
You're not going to do fives. You can't just keep doing fives.
game goes on and the money stays
Do
on
one
the
five
table.
And then you got to be like proper.
And Tony continues to berate him for buying in for 5 at a
You gotta
time.
expose yourself. Just a little bit.
Torelli, the very next hand, if stacking him wasn't enough, gets to have 2 jacks on the button. Doesn't seem fair.
Yeah, I know.
There's a couple of straddles out there. Trickett with 100 and Damir with the 200.
I think it's
Disciplined fold by Roberto in the small blind with King 10, thinking Torelli's button opening range is pretty wide there, and King 10 actually is ahead of most of his opening range, but not this time.
How much could I win? 20?
At least 20.
At least 20?
That's good.
It's not fun if you can't win at least 20.
Tony G wants to see a flop with the 5 deuce suited.
Tony doesn't get tilted if it's like, actually gets tilted at 5 now, so.
And he hits a little piece of it.
Yeah, it's checked it back. I like Torelli's the way he needles Tony. It's good. It's pretty relentless. It's fairly confident. It's kind of wide open.
1,050.
And you gotta like the way he plays this hand as well. He's just gonna let Tony bluff
Yeah,
at
I was
it.
gonna say Tony's not really bluffing it per se. Actually, it's a good blocker bet too, because had he checked there, Torelli is gonna bet bigger, and Tony may have called. There's no reason to think at this point that Tony's pair of 5s isn't the best hand. Tony bets for value with 2,000 on the river. I think Tony believed he had the best hand there. I thought he was up against an ace high. He triumphantly turns over after betting 2,000. He turned over his hand really fast. He believed he had the winner there. He put Torelli on probably something like ace queen, ace jack, trying to get value out of it.
Torelli on a bit of a spin up.
Sometimes I have.
Won over 10,000 euros in the last couple of hands. Big stack over 58 grand, and poised to sort of move into gear here. Big game 6. While Torelli moves up, Gork is on his way out, not taking the option for the rebuy.
I think I played maybe a bit tight, but I didn't have very good starting hands, so my ace-queen against the 10s pre-flop all-in was one of my best hands. Then the ace-king when I doubled up. I think I couldn't done anything else.
Welcome back to the Party Poker Big Game. Down to 7 after the departure of Marc Gork, and the man bossing the table at the moment is Alec Torelli. He put paid to Gork and leads the way with overall profit. Come on, Jungle. Flip another little loose cold 4-bet. Well, you can't really do that yet.
And that's why he elects to fold.
Call.
we see some playable hands here, and Tony G's hand.
Not one of you guys can raise it up.
Tony elects to call with 6-7 off from the small
I
blind,
got like
which
9
is
high, but
pretty
still
awful.
wanted it raised up.
Out of position.
No, I made it 400.
5 ways here
I
from
looked at my
Phil's
cards
open.
and I jacked it up.
And Damir flops. Ace is up again.
Check.
And I expect to see another check raise out of him because that seems to be the only move in his playbook. But nobody gave him the option to. I assure you he would have done that.
This now gets tricky.
Now Phil has made a straight here. And a redraw to the nut straight.
1,100.
But Tony G wants to make a stab at it instead. It was also drawing to a straight.
I mean, this pot could get so big. Trickett and Torelli both have the flush draws.
Right. If something like a 6 of clubs came on the river, that could, or no, the 6 clubs out there, but the 5 of clubs came on the river, that could be like a huge action card.
We've got action already. Tony's led, and Trickett, sort of picking him off, has raised this to 3,500.
Nice turn.
Now, I mean, Laak's just called quickly. He thinks he's calling to sort of chop, but he's got the redraw as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's thinking obviously is if he makes a flush, that's obviously going to be good. But he's also thinking my ace can be good here independently.
Obviously, you could never fold if you're Torelli because of the money in the pot.
No, I don't think he's considering folding at all. I think he's deciding if he wants to raise here or just call. But I think he's thinking if he raises, he's really only getting called by like a 5, which is never going to fold to his raise, and then he has to hit a club versus if he can see a river and like also keep the weaker flush draws in there, because that's when he makes a lot of money. He's up against the king high flush draw, and he only makes a really big pot if he allows the king high flush draw to make his club on the river, and then they see a big river.
And obviously, part of also what Torelli was thinking about here,
and he does call,
Scott, is that Tony G, who opened this pot, had the chance to re-raise when it got back to him. So I think Torelli's probably quite happy he's actually gotten to the river so cheap. Trickett's having a big think about this. This pot's 13K right now, so. Wow, and Laak is going to get the whole caboodle.
And that's a bad card for Torelli. It gives him top 2. He was playing for the flush and wasn't sure if his ace was good, and now he improves. He's thinking, how often does one of these guys have a 5 here? Is he going to have to call if he checks? And depending on Laak's bet size, he might have to just do that.
I mean, is there a big bluff in here for Trickett? I just wonder if he could put Torelli on the kind of hand he has. Does Laak always have a straight here? Could Laak have, I don't know, a set?
Of course Laak could have a set here. Laak could have a set here, but I don't think he's folding a set just the same.
You don't think he's folding a set?
Not unless Sam wants to make a really big bet.
Phil frozen trying to figure this out.
Phil's going to have to bet it here.
Anyone object to automatic straddle?
Wonder if he's going to make a polarizing bet, thinking maybe he missed a flush draw and bet around the size of the pot. Maybe 10, 11,000.
I mean, he also might be trying to bet someone off a chop. Is that possible, or is that not a big
no,
enough
it's
bet?
not. It's not possible because no one's ever going to fold a 5 here to a single bet for 68 for 6,700.
Didn't have the 5. I had the 6.
Trickett made a nice raise against Tony G. Money all got in the pot, and Phil locked.
Put people on a 5.
Best of all, what a turn card that was. Just built for
you and him on a
action.
5.
I was literally drawing dead once Alec called. They called the nut flush draw, right?
No, it was basically, I was over.
Tony's topped up here for 10,000 euros. So he,
got the chips for
I think he's in for over 45 at this stage.
The players run the game.
Like, what was from 105 to 100?
The players run the game.
That's pretty much a referendum.
I will.
The players run the game.
The game will end.
Tony looking to get the terms that he wants.
It was euphoria. I was in a state of euphoria for like 24 hours where everything was beautiful.
He's got everything going on. He's gotten the buy-in raised. His burger has arrived. He's got a vodka and Diet Coke.
Mandatory straddle.
He's got the tournament organizers, the floor manager. I mean, it's just all happening here.
Very, very strong.
Raise 300.
He's upset.
You know what's pretty cool at a poker table? That's,
You just have a little glance into the life of Tony G. And Trickett just super focused. Is just gonna just pick him off. What happened?
Tony opened and Trickett 3-bet him with ace-10. And Tony's now defending with jack-4 suited out of position.
I feel like
not the best hand to do that with.
He's looking for a flop to just make one of those big old crazy shoves on.
Check.
A little interesting flop. Tony flops a pair, and Sam has the overcard in the straight draw. Backdoor nut flush draw. Everyone's got a little something. Tony check calls. You can't hit your top pair at that point and then fold.
Big bet, 1,500 euros already.
Check.
Now Trickett makes an open-ender. I think a lot of the times here he's going to check back, and a lot of the times he's going to bet here. This is one of those spots where you're going to you're not going to always do the same thing here.
Because you don't care who cares. Yeah. Well, it has been a long time since I screamed across the supermarket telling someone I love them, and since then,
I mean, he's got to put Tony on a queen, a jack, or a draw of some sort at this point, and some of the draws got there. A queen is unlikely to fold.
Very strong decision maker, Trickett. He's also a great river card catcher.
Yeah, makes the nut straight on the river, even though it does bring backdoor spades, but he's not concerned about a flush beating him at this point. At this point, Sam knows he has the best hand, and he's deciding what he can get out of Tony. Probably puts Tony on the kind of hand he has, a pair of jacks, and is wondering, how much can I bet here to get called? Decides with a pot-sized bet, 5,000. Tony doesn't even think about it before folding.
60.
And then
That
takes a
burger
big old bite.
would taste so much better if you had won the pot, but still small consolation. Still small consolation.
Get this man some sort of wet nap.
Can I restraddle?
With each point we go up, it's narrowing the family.
Possible? Yeah, 400. 400? Okay.
400 straddle.
These guys are up for gambling. No question about it.
Fork.
We got a 100, a 200. Damir's got the 400 out there live.
Always like to see that.
Jungleman just feels obligated to put a bet out.
It's a restraddle, 800, please.
Oh. He straddled the 400 and he made it 700?
Now he hates it.
800.
Now he hates it. Now basically all he's done is put out a dead 800. You can't get anybody to fold. This is a complete disaster as far as Jungleman's concerned. He thought he was raising it from 2 to 7.
800 core.
Instead he's made it 8. And now people are just going to come in all over the place.
I'd expect these hands to come in anyway.
Roberto's just always going to be way better off calling here than raising, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. 9 is one of those hands. Most of the time you're going to be flatting with in position. Kind of hand you don't want to get into too much trouble with pre-flop.
Pull cards out of the mug.
Try to flop a set with it.
My cards are
800. Yeah, it's
Trickett's just like, wow, everybody else is, and what the heck you want me to do?
The queen 7 off.
You know, and if Trickett was thinking to himself, unlikely I have the worst hand here. He's half right anyway.
Damir's never folding. He's thinking about if he can make a play here. He decides just to
And I'll give you all a quarter.
Phil Laak's cards are the muck.
You guys want to do that? I'll give you all a quarter. Let me call.
5-6 suited. I'm surprised he folds that. He probably wants those back.
He must be sick as a dog right now. Tony, go on, Tony. Tony, come on, Tony, win a pot. Holy Toledo.
Top and bottom pairs, max that flop.
And if Torelli leads out here, you know, he does have the flush draw with other cards. I think he played a pot like this before where he did lead out. Tony's probably going to just shove on him, isn't he?
Well, I mean, Roberto decides to fold. That's a good fold with a lot of people behind him with the 2 nines there.
That was just always the way Tony was going to play.
Tony.
At the Hotel Intercontinental, they have those cozy beds. Just draw the blind.
Tony's likely to raise here on this kind of board with the draws out there.
17.
Gonna try to make his opponent believe he's got something like a flush draw.
No.
Telling him.
I'm playing 15 behind, I guess.
Now look gets hard. Does he want to take on Tony G? The question, obviously, Scott, you know, is my queen or jack going to be good? Am I out flush drawed here? I mean, it's not that strong a hand right now, queen jack of hearts, is it?
No, and I really wish he made his raise size a little bit smaller. I wish he made it smaller so that he left Torelli room to think Torelli could make Tony fold, to make a play on him with fold equity. But Tony's committed himself to the hand, and now Torelli, it's now come down to a math equation for him.
Has he called it? Wow, it just feels like to me sometimes Torelli's going to be seeing an ace-high flush draw, and sometimes he's going to be seeing. Maybe he just felt like there was a lot of draws Tony could have.
I agree, but yeah, I mean, decided to go with it. He also probably thinks his queen and jack are live there a lot of the time.
It'd be hard to have a flush. Hey, you're good. You sure you don't want to do twice? So I feel like I'm going to get
What do you have? Show me.
a queen high, queen jack of hearts.
He's actually, I mean, he's got all of his flush cards are live. He's got 9 outs.
I mean, twice.
Some redraws.
We'll do it 3 times.
This is going to be exciting.
It gives you more outs. You gotta love that card.
It's so sick.
It's the best card in the deck.
I think I'm getting there. Well, actually, I think a deuce of hearts is a little
You
better.
take that card over any other card.
I think
Put this dealers here. You're gonna get it twice.
comforting winning the first.
Getting Tony stuck, another buy-in. I think he'll amp it up.
How cool is
Alec wins the first one.
Torelli's talking about scooping it already.
You'll get it, don't worry.
I don't think that's gonna happen. Tony's gonna win the second one.
I'm optimistic.
Not a lot of hearts left in the deck.
I told you.
Oh.
We can't do it 3 times. Do whatever. These
Let's just
guys
see,
will
let's
do
see,
whatever
let's
they
see.
can to
Let's
kill.
see.
They'll do
Oh,
whatever
that's
they
me.
can to
That's
hurt
me.
me.
King 9, you make it straight.
That's
Didn't
me.
they
It's
agree to
king
do it a
nine.
third time?
Runner straight.
So sick.
Yeah, I think the rule perhaps, Scott, is that you can only run it twice.
Only won a third, now you win half.
Okay, that must be a house rule here. So they'll chop the pot.
That's easy.
Torelli on top by a few thousand from Phil Laak. Romanello fighting hard, and he along with Jungleman and Damir G keeping their heads above water. For Trickett and Tony G, it's looking fairly grim, although Sam Trickett is staging a massive fight back. Coming up next time, the arrival of Vladimir Geshkinbein, winner of the PKR Heads Up Challenge, JP Kelly, a 2-time WSOP bracelet winner, and Yusuf Kurt as the big game marches on.